COVID-19 is a pandemic, says the World Health Organization. Finally. Expressing increasing alarm about mounting infections, the World Health Organization declared Wednesday that the global coronavirus crisis is now a pandemic. Tedros Ghebreyesus, who heads the UN agency, said the WHO is deeply concerned by the alarming levels of spread and severity of the outbreak. He also expressed concern about the alarming levels of inaction. We have therefore made the assessment that COVID-19 can be characterized as a pandemic, he said at a briefing in Geneva. All countries can still change the course of this pandemic if countries detect, test, treat, isolate, trace, and mobilize their people in the response, Tedros said. Italy weighed imposing even tighter restrictions on daily life and announced billions in financial relief on Wednesday to cushion economic shocks from the coronavirus. Its latest efforts to adjust to the fast-evolving health crisis that silenced the usually bustling heart of the Catholic faith, St. Peter's Square. In Iran, by far the hardest-hit country in the Middle East, the senior vice president and 2 other cabinet ministers were reported to have been diagnosed with COVID-19, the illness caused by the virus. Iran reported another jump in deaths by 62 to now 354, behind only China and Italy. In Italy, Premier Giuseppe Conte said he would consider requests from Lombardy, Italy's hardest-hit region, to toughen the already extraordinary antivirus lockdown that was extended nationwide Tuesday. Lombardy wants to shut down non-essential businesses and reduce public transportation. These additional measures would be on top of travel and social restrictions that imposed an eerie hush on cities and towns across the country from Tuesday. Police enforced rules that customers stay 1 meter, which is 3 feet apart, and ensured that businesses closed by 6 p.m. Milan shopkeeper Claudia Sabatini said she favored stricter measures. Rather than run the risk of customers possibly infecting each other in her children's clothing store, she decided to close it. I cannot have people standing at a distance. Children must try on the clothes. We have to know if they will fit, she said. Conte said fighting Italy's more than 10,000 infections, the biggest outbreak outside of China, must not come at the expense of civil liberties. His caution suggested that Italy is unlikely to adopt the draconian quarantine measures that helped China push down new infections from thousands per day to a trickle now, and allowed its manufacturers to restart production lines. China's new worry is that the coronavirus could re-enter from abroad. Beijing's city government announced that all overseas visitors will be quarantined for 14 days. Of 24 new cases that China reported Wednesday, 5 arrived from Italy and 1 from the United States. China has had over 81,000 virus infections and over 3,000 deaths. For most, the coronavirus causes only mild or moderate symptoms, such as fever and cough. But for a few, especially older adults and people with existing health problems, it can cause more severe illnesses, including pneumonia. More than 121,000 people have been infected worldwide, and over 4,300 have died. But the vast majority of people recover. According to the WHO, people with mild illness recover in about 2 weeks, while those with a more severe illness may take 3 to 6 weeks to recover. In the Mideast, the vast majority of the nearly 10,000 cases are in Iran or involve people who traveled there. Iran announced another increase in cases Wednesday to 9,000. Iran's semi-official Fars news agency said they include Vice President Ishaq Jahangiri, who had not been seen in photos of recent top-level meetings. Fars said Iran's ministers for cultural heritage, handcrafts and tourism, and for industry, mines and business were also infected. Cases in Qatar jumped from 24 to 262. Kuwait announced a 2-week shutdown of the country. For the global economy, virus repercussions were profound, with increasing concerns of wealth and job-wrecking recessions. U.S. stocks sank again in early trading Wednesday, wiping out most of a huge rally from a day earlier as Wall Street continues to reel from worries about the coronavirus. The Wall Street plunge followed a steep decline by markets across Asia, where governments there and elsewhere have announced billions of dollars in stimulus funds, including packages revealed in Japan on Tuesday and Australia on Wednesday. Italy's government announced Wednesday it was earmarking 25 billion euros to boost antivirus efforts and soften economic blows, including delaying tax and mortgage payments by families and businesses. Britain's government announced a £30 billion economic stimulus package, and the Bank of England slashed its key interest rate by half a percentage point to 0.25%. Normal life was increasingly being upended. With police barring access to St. Peter's Square, emptying it of tens of thousands of people who usually come on Wednesday for the weekly papal address, Pope Francis instead live-streamed prayers from the privacy of his Vatican library. In France, the government's weekly cabinet meeting was moved to a bigger room so President Emmanuel Macron and his ministers could sit at least 1 meter apart. Athletes, who usually thrive on crowds, grew increasingly wary against them. Spanish soccer club Getafe said it wouldn't travel to Italy to play Inter Milan, preferring to forfeit their Europa League match rather than risk infections. Olympic champion skier Michaela Schifrin said she would be limiting contact with fans and fellow competitors, tweeting that this means no selfies, autographs, hugs, high fives, handshakes, or kiss greetings. In the U.S., the caseload passed 1,000, and outbreaks on both sides of the country stirred alarm. Former Vice President Joe Biden and Senator Bernie Sanders, who are vying to take on President Donald Trump in the presidential election, abruptly canceled rallies Tuesday and left open the possibility that future campaign events could be impacted as well. Trump's campaign insisted it would proceed as normal, although Vice President Mike Pence conceded future rallies would be evaluated on a day-to-day basis. In Europe, deaths soared among Italy's aging population. Authorities said Italy has suffered 631 deaths, with an increase of 168 fatalities recorded Tuesday. In Spain, the number of cases surged past the 2,000 mark on Wednesday. Belgium, Bulgaria, Sweden, and Albania announced their first virus-related deaths. If you want to be blunt, Europe is the new China, said Robert Redfield, the head of the U.S. Centers for Disease Control and Prevention. Also sounding the alarm at a congressional hearing in Washington was Dr. Anthony Fauci, director of the National Institute of Allergy and Infectious Diseases. Bottom line, it's going to get worse, he said. In Germany, Chancellor Angela Merkel, said that if the virus is not halted by vaccines and cures, up to 70% of the country's 83 million people could ultimately become infected, citing estimates that epidemiologists have been putting forward for several weeks. Germany has some 1,300 confirmed infections. Merkel's comments fit a pattern of government officials using sobering warnings to try to get people to protect themselves, most notably by washing their hands and not gathering in large numbers. Dozens of cases have been tied to a conference in Boston, and leaders in multiple states were announcing curbs on large events. Colleges emptied their classrooms as they moved to online instruction, and uncertainty surrounded the upcoming opening of the Major League Baseball season and college basketball's championships. Even the famed buffets of Las Vegas were affected, with some of the strip's biggest being closed as a precaution. It's terrifying, said Silvana Gomez, a student at Harvard University, where undergraduates were told to leave the campus by Sunday. I'm definitely very scared right now about what the next couple of days, next couple of weeks will look like. Did a doctor in Italy warn coronavirus wasn't just a bad flu? A doctor in Italy shared numerous details about how hospitals in the country are dealing with COVID-19, a disease caused by the new coronavirus. In March 2020, as the coronavirus continued to spread around the globe, a viral message circulated on social media that was supposedly written by a doctor in Italy about how the new virus had impacted hospitals in the country. I'll read the message in Italy, which was translated from the way he wrote it in Italian. But first, I'll just read something here. Macchini explained that hospitals in Italy were overwhelmed with new cases, urged people to stop downplaying the disease as just a bad flu, and asked those who were unafraid of the disease to consider how it will impact older populations. Macchini also complimented the cooperative efforts of medical professionals at the hospital, writing that there were no more surgeons, urologists, orthopedists, just doctors who suddenly become part of a single team to face this tsunami that has overwhelmed us. So here's the message in full translated for you in English. In one of the constant emails that I receive from my health department on a more than daily basis now these days, there was also a paragraph entitled Doing Social Responsibly, with some recommendations that can only be supported. After thinking for a long time if and what to write about what is happening to us, I felt that the silence was not at all responsible. I will therefore try to convey to people not involved in the work and further away from our reality what we are experiencing in Bergamo during these pandemic days from COVID-19. I understand the need not to create panic, but when the message of the danger of what is happening does not reach people, and I still feel who cares about the recommendations and people who gather together complaining about not being able to go to the gym or to be able to do soccer tournaments, I shudder. I understand that economic damage, and I am also worried about that. After the epidemic, the tragedy will start again. However, apart from the fact that we are literally also devastating our NHS from an economic point of view, I allow myself to raise the importance of the health damage that is likely throughout the country, and I find it nothing short of chilling, for example, that a red zone already requested by the region has not yet been established for the municipalities of Alzano, Lombardo, and Nembro. I would like to clarify that this is pure personal opinion, he said. I myself looked with some amazement at the reorganizations of the entire hospital in the previous week, when our current enemy was still in the shadows, the wards slowly emptied, the elective activities interrupted, the intensive therapies freed to create as many beds as possible, containers arriving in front of the emergency room to create diversified routes and avoid any infections. All this rapid transformation brought into the corridors of the hospital an atmosphere of surreal silence and emptiness that we still did not understand, waiting for a war that was yet to begin and that many, including myself, were not so sure would never come with such ferocity. I open in parentheses all this in silence and without publicity, while several newspapers had the courage to say that private healthcare was not doing anything. I still remember my night guard a week ago passed unnecessarily without turning a blind eye, waiting for a call from the microbiology of the SAC. I was waiting for the outcome of a swab on the first suspect patient in our hospital, thinking about what consequences it would have for us and the clinic. If I think about it, my agitation for one possible case seems almost ridiculous and unjustified, now that I have seen what is happening. Well, the situation is now nothing short of dramatic. No other words come to mind. The war has literally exploded, and the battles are uninterrupted day and night. One after the other, the unfortunate poor people come to the emergency room. They have far from the complications of a flu. Let's stop saying it's a bad flu. In these 2 years, I have learned that the people of Bergamo do not come to the emergency room at all. They did well this time, too. They followed all the indications given. A week or 10 days at home with a fever without going out and risking contagion. But now they can't take it anymore. They don't breathe enough. They need oxygen. Drug therapies for the virus are few. The course mainly depends on our organism. We can only support it when it can't take it anymore. It is mainly hoped that our body will eradicate the virus on its own. Let's face it. Antiviral therapies are experimental on this virus, and we learn its behavior day after day. Staying at home until the symptoms worsen does not change the prognosis of the disease. Now, however, that need for beds and all its drama has arrived. One after another, the departments that have been emptied are filling up at an impressive rate. The display boards with the names of the sick, of different colors, depending on the operating unit they belong to, are now all red, and instead of the surgical operation, there is the diagnosis, which is always the same cursed, bilateral interstitial pneumonia. Now, tell me, which flu virus causes such a rapid tragedy? Because that's the difference. Now, I'm going down a bit in the technical field, in the classical flu. Apart from infecting much less population over several months, cases can be complicated less frequently only when the virus destroying the protective barriers of our respiratory tract allows bacteria normally resident in the upper tract to invade the bronchi and lungs, causing more serious cases. COVID-19 causes a banal influence in many young people, but in many elderly people, and not only a real SARS because it arrives directly in the alveoli of the lungs and infects them, making them unable to perform their function. Sorry, but to me as a doctor, it doesn't reassure you that the most serious are mainly elderly people with other pathologies. The elderly population is the most represented in our country, and it is difficult to find someone who, above 65 years of age, does not take at least a tablet for pressure or diabetes. I also assure you that when you see young people who end up in intubated, intensive care, pronated, or worse, an ECMO, a machine for the worst case, which extracts the blood, reoxygenates it, and returns it to the body, waiting for the organism, hopefully, heal your lungs. All this tranquility for your young age passes there. And while there are still people on social networks who pride themselves on not being afraid by ignoring the indications, protesting that their normal lifestyle habits are temporarily in crisis, the epidemiological disaster is taking place. And there are no more surgeons, urologists, orthopedists. We are only doctors who suddenly become part of a single team to face this tsunami that has overwhelmed us. The cases multiply. We arrive at the rate of 15 to 20 hospitalizations a day for all the same reason. The results of the swabs now come one after the other. Positive, positive, positive. Suddenly, the emergency room is collapsing. Emergency provisions are issued. Help is needed in the emergency room. A quick meeting to learn how the first aid management software works, and a few minutes later, they are already downstairs, next to the warriors on the war front. The PC screen with the reasons for the access is always the same. Fever and difficulty breathing, fever and cough, respiratory failure, etc. The exams, radiology, always with the same sentence. Bilateral interstitial pneumonia, bilateral interstitial pneumonia. All to be hospitalized. Someone already to intubate and go to intensive care. For others, it is late. Intensive care becomes saturated, and where intensive care ends, more are created. Each fan becomes like gold. Those are the operating rooms that have now suspended their non-urgent activity becomes places for intensive care that did not exist before. I found it incredible, or at least I can speak for the Humanitas Gavazzini where I work, how it was possible to implement in such a short time a deployment and a reorganization of resources so finely designed to prepare for a disaster of this magnitude. And every reorganization of beds, wards, staff, work shifts, and tasks is constantly reviewed day after day to try and give everything and even more. Those wards that previously looked like ghosts are now saturated, ready to try to give their best for the sick, but exhausted. The staff is exhausted. I saw fatigue on faces that didn't know what it was despite the already grueling workloads they had. I have seen people still stop beyond the times they used to stop already for overtime. That was now habitual. I saw solidarity from all of us who never failed to go to our internist colleagues to ask, "What can I do for you now?" Or, "Leave that hospitalization alone." Doctors who move beds and transfer patients, who administer therapies instead of nurses. Nurses with tears in their eyes because we are unable to save everyone, and the vital signs of several patients at the same time reveal an already marked destiny. There are no more shifts, schedules. Social life is suspended for us. I have been separated for a few months, and I assure you that I have always done my best to constantly see my son, even on the day of disassembly at night, without sleeping and postponing sleep until when I am without him. But for almost 2 weeks, I have not voluntarily I see neither my son nor my family members for fear of infecting them, and in turn infecting an elderly grandmother or relatives with other health problems. I'm happy with some photos of my son that I regard between tears and a few video calls. So be patient too. You can't go to the theater, museums, or gym. Try to have mercy on that myriad of older people you could exterminate. It is not your fault, I know. But of those who put it in your head that you are exaggerating, and even this testimony may seem just an exaggeration for those who are far from the epidemic, but please, listen to us. Try to leave the house only to indispensable things. Do not go en masse to make stocks in supermarkets. It is the worst thing because you concentrate on the risk of contacts with infected people who do not know they are. You can go there as you usually do. Maybe if you have a normal mask, even those that are used to do certain manual work, put it on. Don't look for FFP2 or FFP3. Those should serve us, and we are beginning to struggle to find them. By now we have had to optimize their use only in certain circumstances, as the WHO recently suggested in view of their almost ubiquitous impoverishment. Oh yes, and thanks to the shortage of certain devices, I and many other colleagues are certainly exposed despite all the means of protection we have. Some of us have already become infected despite the protocols. Some infected colleagues have in turn infected family members, and some of their family members already struggle between life and death. We are where your fears could make you stay away. Try to make sure you stay away. Tell your elderly or other family members to stay indoors. Bring him the groceries, please. We have no alternative. It's our job. In fact, what I do these days is not really the job I'm used to, but I do it anyway, and I will like it as long as it responds to the same principles. Try to make some sick people feel better and heal, or even just alleviate the suffering and the pain to those unfortunately who cannot heal. I don't spend a lot of words about the people who define us heroes these days, and who until yesterday, were ready to insult and report us. Both will return to insult and report as soon as everything is over. People forget everything quickly. And we're not even heroes these days. It's our job. We risk something bad every day before, when we put our hands in a belly full of blood of someone we don't even know if he has HIV or hepatitis C, when we do it even though we know it has HIV or hepatitis C, when we sting with the one with HIV and take the drugs that can make us vomit from morning to night for a month, when we open with the usual anguish the results of the tests at the various checks after an accidental puncture, hoping not to be infected. We simply earn our living with something that gives us emotions. It doesn't matter if they are beautiful or ugly, just take them home. In the end, we only try to make ourselves useful for everyone. Now try to do it too. With our actions, we influence the life and death of a few dozen people, you with yours, many more. Please share this message. We must spread the word to prevent what is happening here in Italy. Shortly after McKinney's post went viral, the Italian government announced new restrictions on public travel in an effort to stop the spread of the disease. Guys, gals, everything in between, if you are enjoying this video, if you take note as to anything that this doctor has said, please do the same and try to share this video. It would help out, hopefully, even if it helps out one person, that's one extra person, we helped out, and that means a lot. So yeah, this was a pretty deep and meaningful letter that this doctor wrote. I hope you guys all take it to heart and understand what he's trying to say and come across as. Let's go on to the next story. If you are new here, don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Do smash the like button, I would appreciate that. And make sure you hit the bell icon notification. That way you'll be notified each and every time I post new videos which again will be every day at 10 p.m. for sure, about the coronavirus around the world. It doesn't look like it's going to die anytime soon, unfortunately. So let's go on. Tests show new coronavirus lives on some surfaces for up to 3 days. The work suggests that COVID-19 can spread through the air as well as from touching things that were contaminated by others who have it, in addition to direct person-to-person contact. The new coronavirus can live in the air for several hours and on some surfaces for as long as 2 to 3 days, tests by U.S. government and other scientists have found. Their work, published today, suggests that the virus can spread through the air as well as from touching things that were contaminated by others who have it, in addition to direct person-to-person contact. Since emerging in China late last year, the new virus has infected more than 120,000 people worldwide and caused more than 4,300 deaths, far more than the 2003 SARS outbreak caused by a genetically similar virus. For this study, researchers used a nebulizer device to put samples of the new virus into the air, imitating what might happen if an infected person coughed or made the virus airborne some other way. They found that viable virus could be detected up to 3 hours later in the air, up to 4 hours on copper, up to 24 hours on cardboard, and up to 2 to 3 days on plastic and stainless steel. Similar results were obtained from tests that they did on the virus that caused the 2003 SARS outbreak. So differences in durability of the virus do not account for how much more widely the new one is spread, researchers say. The tests were done by scientists from the National Institute of Health, Princeton University, and the University of California, Los Angeles, with funding from the U.S. government and the National Science Foundation. The findings have not been reviewed by other scientists yet and were posted on a site where researchers can quickly share their work before publication. It's a solid piece of work that answers questions people have been asking and shows the value and importance of the hygiene of advice that the public health officials have been stressing, said Julie Fisher, a microbiology professor at Georgetown University. What we need to be doing is washing our hands, being aware that people who are infected may be contaminating surfaces, and keeping hands away from the face, she said. Flu and coronavirus. Similar symptoms, different fears. Is it the flu, a cold, or the new coronavirus? Patients and doctors alike are parsing signs of illness to figure out who needs what tests or care and how worried they should be. You have 3 different major viruses floating around at the same time, causing somewhat similar symptoms, but different levels of concern, said Dr. Gary Leroy, president of the American Academy of Family Physicians. So what's the biggest danger, and why are we responding to them so differently? Familiar foe. COVID-19, the disease caused by the new coronavirus, is a flu-like illness that has killed a small fraction of the number of people that the flu kills every year. Through the first 4 months of the outbreak, coronavirus has killed about 4,300 people. Flu kills 290,000 to 650,000 every year around the world, according to the WHO. To some, that comparison seems comforting because flu is such a familiar foe. President Donald Trump regularly brings it up, noting in a tweet how many more Americans die from flu and adding, "Nothing is shut down, life and the economy go on. Think about that." But the public health experts, the huge number of flu deaths is exactly why extraordinary steps should be taken to try to prevent the new coronavirus from spreading wildly. The flu's annual return can't be stopped because it's already so embedded in the population. There is still a chance COVID-19 cases can be limited or spread slowed while treatments are developed. How deadly are the viruses? Flu kills about 0.1% of those it infects, but that's still hundreds of thousands of people each year because it infects millions. Researchers are still trying to understand just how deadly the new coronavirus is. The mortality rate from infection with the virus isn't known yet because the cases caught in an early part of an outbreak are often the most severe. People with mild or no symptoms aren't being tested, and sometimes overwhelmed hospitals struggle to care for the sickest patients. Various reports have estimated the fatality rate from less than 1% to as high as 4% among cases diagnosed so far, depending on location. Most people infected by the new coronavirus develop mild or moderate symptoms and recover after about 2 weeks. So what do I have? Flu, cold, and coronavirus often share certain symptoms, but differences in intensity and how they appear can offer clues to which one is causing the misery. Doctors can test for the flu and get results within a day, but coronavirus testing is still limited by availability in the United States. Colds are often suspected because adults get about 2 on average each year, said Leroy, a family medicine doctor and associate dean at Wright State University in Dayton, Ohio. The common cold just starts out with a sore or scratchy throat, cough, runny nose, stuffy nose, and any fever is usually mild, he said. Flu symptoms are more intense and usually come on suddenly, the Yale New Haven Health System advises. They can include a high fever, over 100.5 degrees, extreme exhaustion, muscle or body aches, a dry cough, and chills. It really hits you like a bus, and people may start a day well but feel terrible by afternoon, Leroy said. Flu symptoms can include a runny or stuffy nose, headaches, and possibly vomiting or diarrhea, though the latter two are more common in children than adults, the U.S. Centers for Disease Control and Prevention says. Symptoms of COVID-19 may appear more slowly. They usually include fever, a dry cough, and noticeable shortness of breath, according to the WHO. A minority of cases develop pneumonia, and the disease is especially worrisome for the elderly and those with other medical problems such as high blood pressure, obesity, diabetes, or heart conditions. One study of hospitalized patients in China found that about half did not have a fever when they were admitted, but nearly all developed one. What to do if you're sick? Don't go straight to your doctor's office. That just risks making more people sick, officials urge. Call ahead and ask if you need to be seen and where. Fever, cough, and noticeable shortness of breath, if you have those 3 components, especially if it's associated with some recent travel or someone you know who has been exposed to COVID-19, those things should prompt you to call for medical attention, Leroy said. Mildly ill patients should be encouraged to stay home. The CDC's Dr. Sue Gerber told doctors on a conference call last week, people having difficulty breathing should seek care, and older people or those with other conditions should contact their doctors early in the course of illness, she said. Prevention. To protect yourself, wash your hands well and often. Keep them away from your face and avoid crowds and standing close to people. There's one big difference between flu and coronavirus. A vaccine exists to help prevent the flu, and it's not too late to get it. It won't protect you from catching the coronavirus, but may put you in a better position to fight it. You don't want to have a compromised immune system if you were to encounter coronavirus, Leroy said. And today's final final article, coronavirus. It's time to debunk claims that vitamin C could cure it. In the midst of the novel coronavirus outbreak, some influencers are claiming that taking mega doses of vitamin C can cure COVID-19. It's an article from The Conversation. Vitamin C is a common remedy that some people believe will cure the common cold and flu. Although it helps us maintain good immune function, there is little evidence that it can prevent or substantially reduce either of these diseases. But in the midst of the coronavirus outbreak, some influencers are claiming that taking mega doses of vitamin C can cure COVID-19. So let's cut to the chase. Can vitamin C cure the coronavirus? Considering that coronavirus belongs to the same family of viruses, coronaviruses, as the common cold and flu, it's unlikely that taking vitamin C will prevent or cure you of a COVID-19 infection. Vitamin C to treat the common cold was an idea popularized by double Nobel Prize-winning chemist Linus Pauling and further promoted by the dietary supplements industry. Unfortunately, ever since Pauling's claim in the 1970s, there has been little evidence to back it up. Vitamins, or vital amines, were first discovered at the beginning of the 20th century as elements present in low amounts in our diets that were vital for health. Certainly, people lacking certain vitamins will develop deficiency diseases. For example, people deficient in vitamin C will develop scurvy. However, it wasn't until the early 1930s that it was discovered that scurvy was caused by lack of vitamin C, and that taking the vitamin could cure the disease. The science of nutrition was born with the discovery of vitamins, and it has since become a competitive, unregulated industry, often with scientific fact competing against those spreading misinformation and looking to profit. The coronavirus outbreak is just the latest example. These misleading articles have spread quickly and are likely to be behind the shortage of vitamin C in Asia and a 5-fold spike in demand for vitamin C and multivitamins in Singapore. The body's immune function. Vitamin C is important to maintain redox, balance in the body's tissues. These are types of reactions in cells that add or remove oxygen and are essential for many processes such as generating energy in cells. These same reactions, though, can create products harmful to human cells, such as reactive oxygen species, which react with lipids, fat, proteins, and nucleic acids. Vitamin C can lessen these harmful reactions. It also helps enzymes build collagen, which is necessary for supporting our body's tissues. Although vitamin C doesn't have miraculous disease-curing properties, some research has also shown it can help the immune system fight off bacteria and viruses. Its role in protecting against viral infections was shown in a recent review, which found that immune cells need vitamin C to produce proteins that activate the immune system throughout the body against virus attacks. Having said that, we can easily obtain sufficient levels of vitamin C in our diet that will keep our immune system fully functional. Vitamin C is plentiful in many fruits and vegetables, including oranges, broccoli, and potatoes. And while it is relatively non-toxic, since its high water solubility makes it easy to excrete from the body, excessive doses can result in unpleasant symptoms such as diarrhea, nausea, and cramps. Vitamin C is unlikely to be a dramatic cure for COVID-19. The fact that it can promote good immune function means it would be going too far to say there will be no effect. And although a review found that vitamin C has no effect on reducing the frequency of colds, it did find that for the average person, there was a small decrease in the duration of common cold symptoms. But for people that participate in brief periods of severe physical exercise, such as marathon runners and skiers, vitamin C halved the duration and severity of their common cold risk. These slight effects of vitamin C on the coronavirus that causes the common cold have spurred a new clinical trial looking to cure COVID-19 infections using very high intravenous doses of vitamin C. These trials have just started and no results are yet posted. Intravenous application of vitamin C will result in much higher and faster levels of the vitamin in the blood than any amount found in vitamin C supplements taken orally. Though this approach could increase vitamin C's mild protective effect, this is yet hypothetical and intravenous injection comes with its own risks, such as infection, blood vessel damage, air embolism, or blood clots. So, although vitamin C does have some small effect on the common cold, it's unlikely that taking large amounts of vitamin C supplements will cure a COVID-19 infection or have a large effect at all. Even if intravenous vitamin C works to shorten or cure COVID-19, it will likely only be a stopgap before therapies directed at the virus, such as vaccinations, take over. The most effective way to avoid the virus still remains washing hands, not touching the eyes, nose, or mouth, and keeping your distance from anyone exhibiting symptoms. So again, this is from a professor from the University of Aberdeen, right through the conversation. Guys, gals, everything in between, that does it for today's updates. Do let me know what you think in the comments below. As I said, if you're new here, don't forget to subscribe, smash that like button on this video, and don't forget to hit the bell notification icon so you'll be updated every single time I post new videos, which is daily. I do appreciate each and every one of you for stopping by, chatting with me, discussing it with one another as well. Nothing but peace and love in this channel. That's what it's all about. Let's try to keep each other safe, healthy, happy for as long as possible. Remember, family first, you come first, nothing else matters. As always, this is Mavakaga saying once again, take care of each other. Peace and love. Mavakaga, out.